Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is Rachel, and you are here for Lucky in Love, Keys to Attracting a Committed Partner Who Loves You for Who You Are. And I am so glad that you are here with me and my special guest tonight, Ron. And we're going to be talking about what it really takes to attract and be in committed, mutually empowering partnerships. So I hope you're excited because I really am. Ron and I have been planning this for a little over a month now, and I'm so happy that the day has finally arrived for this. And so what I'd like to do is start out tonight by just telling you a little bit about how Ron and I met. Then I'll tell you a little bit about me just in case you're on the call and aren't too familiar with me and my work. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ron before we really get in to the things that you need to know to have the relationships that you really want to have. So I want you to keep in mind also that we're going to be having questions and answers at the end of our call tonight. So make sure that as we're sharing tonight and Ron is talking that if, questions are coming up for you, that you jot those down, make note of them, and you will have time at the end for that. So keep that in mind. And I met Ron, probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I lose track of time all the time. But we really connected online and started having kind of a conversation. Then when I met him, I was very, very early on in my business and was just kind of getting things rolling and thinking about what this whole thing was going to look like for me. And we really connected around, each other's work and kind of had a similar interest in how relationships really are such the cornerstone of our day-to-day life. And when we have healthy, loving relationships, how that, creates joy and sustainability and laughter and fun. And when we don't have those healthy relationships, it can create a whole lot of not that. And so, we got together and met a couple of times in person and just continued to have conversations and supporting each other's work. And I've just gotten to know him over these years. And what I can tell you about Ron is that his heart is just golden. Every time I end up being in his presence, it's just like walking into like a warm room. You just immediately feel loved, seen, really heard and listened to. He has a great capacity for really seeing and knowing and understanding people. So you're in a real great space tonight and in for a real treat to get to hear him sharing all of his wisdom and knowledge that he's gathered over the years. So if you don't know me, I'm a sexual abuse recovery coach, and I work with survivors of sexual abuse who are really at that stage where they're sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable and burdened by the past, and they're really ready to let go of the pain of abuse and finally feel normal. So I have the great pleasure of working with my clients through my Beyond Surviving program. And if you are, in that camp and you have any interest about that, you can certainly feel free to reach out to me after tonight's call. But the main event really is Ron. And Ron is just this happily married love and relationship coach. And he and his wife, Julia, have built a deeply satisfying, loving relationship. And they've been together for over 11 years. At a conference recently, Bill Barron, who's one of our mutual mentors, actually introduced Ron as a man who lives love. And he hit the nail on the head. It's so true. Ron really walks his talk. He's helped career-oriented singles to attract and build a loving relationship with a well-matched, committed partner who loves them for who they are. And his sacred mission is really to promote conscious, mutually empowering, loving relationships between as many people as possible. So he's out there doing the work, connecting with as many folks as he can. And he has this just amazing modular process that has helped many of his clients to establish and build these satisfying relationships. And so, he's really found this process to be effective for people who are in that space where, they're kind of given up on ever finding true love. It's like, man, when is this going to happen? When am I going to find, the love that I'm really looking for? And so this process effectively addresses the most salient mindsets and skills that are necessary to attract and build mutually empowering, loving relationships. So I don't know about you, but that sounds amazing. And you can certainly learn more about Ron at his website, which is www.inspiredcommitment.com. Again, it's www.inspiredcommitment.com. And we'll be repeating that again here throughout the call. So without further ado, Ron, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Wow, Rachel, thank you for that heartfelt introduction.
You're welcome. It was heartfelt. I adore you, and I'm really excited for what we're going to be talking about tonight. So let's jump right in. Just to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about how you found your life's work?
Well, Rachel, after being laid off from an audio-video system design and sales gig, my wife, Julia, introduced me to the idea of coaching. She even bought me a book on the topic. Well, my initial response was, really? But I finally got it. In 2007, I decided to pursue coaching, training, and certification through the Coaches Training Institute in San Rafael. Well, I had to choose a niche, that thing we all struggle with in business. Well, I want to work with everybody. Well, who are you going to work with? So my target market was relationships, and as they say, the rest is history.
Nice. So I love it. Julia from the get-go has been a key player in all of this. That's wonderful. And, what was it about relationships? Why that particular niche?
You had to ask. Well, back in the day, I was a mental health counselor, really, for almost 20 years. I worked with children, adolescents, families that needed support around parenting and relationship issues. I also worked in the public schools supporting teachers with what they call difficult children. Add to that my own path to true lasting love was long, circuitous, and fraught with broken relationships and the deep, deep disappointment that those broken relationships always bring. And the relationship niche was simply calling to me. You see, I got to marry my best friend. My wife, Julia, is truly the treasure of my heart. I persisted on my path to true lasting love until I got the relationship I really wanted and frankly deserved. I want others to have what I have, a committed partner who truly loves them for who they are. And since 2010, I've been helping people to establish and build deeply satisfying, mutually empowering partnerships. I get so much from helping others to establish and build these partnerships that really work for them. This is the best job I've ever had.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine that seeing the journey of folks coming in probably, with some heartbreak and frustration and feeling at the end of their rope and seeing them come out of that and step into relationships. So, this is something that I'm very curious about because, so many people seem to really crave like this lasting, true love. And yet this dream doesn't seem to come true for a lot of people. So, what do you have to say about that? What's going on there?
Oh, I could talk for a long time about that. There are really many reasons. That said, it seems to me that far too many people have overly, I repeat the word overly, bought into the idea that if they can just meet the right person, their quest for true love will be solved. The meet, fall in love, and live happily ever after story. Well, I believe that people everywhere are realizing that what they really want is to be in mutually empowering relationships, relationships that work equally well for both partners. Folks are just no longer content to trade this for that. They want the whole kahuna. But here's the rub. Higher relationship expectations without the mindsets and skills necessary to attain these higher expectations simply lead to more breakups and more relationship disappointment. So where do you start? Well, I believe the best place to start is, instead of putting all of your hopes in meeting the right person, to start with you, with things you can control. I invite you to look at love from the perspective of personal responsibility. I invite you to ask yourself, what can you do to make sure that your romantic pursuits work out for the long term? Today's talk will address this question. Today I'm going to share with you how to make a fresh start, how to enlist the support of the universe in your quest for love and fulfillment, a basic model for building mutually empowering relationships, and time permitting, the fundamentals of emotional connection. I know. Pretty ambitious for our time together, but I'll share as much as I can, and we'll hang around after our interview to answer any questions. My intention for all of you is that you come away from this call with a renewed hope that you too can attract and build a loving relationship that will stand the test of time. You'll also come away with some insights and inner shifts that will re-energize your efforts to attract true lasting love. So please have a pad, a paper, and a pen handy. In fact, by making the time out of your busy day, taking this time to attend this teleseminar, you're already beginning to create the inner shifts necessary to build that lasting, loving partnership you dream of.
Wow, something you said there just hit me right in the gut, this relationship responsibility. Taking responsibility for, what we're up to and what we're choosing, instead of this idea that, if we just open our arms, it'll all come, it'll just kind of fall into our lap. So that's really interesting. I love that. And yeah, we do have an ambitious agenda here, but we're going to do our best to get through it, because every single point that you identified, I think, is really important and a big piece of this. So, you mentioned that your path to true lasting love was kind of a long one, kind of all around the bend, and you had your fair share of broken relationships and heartache. So coming from that, how did you make that fresh start that you believe is so important for people?
Well, Rachel, the short answer to that question is my fresh start began with a life-changing conversation. Take a sip of water here. After my first wife divorced me, I had a life-changing conversation with my spiritual teacher that really just helped me to end my pity party and move on with my life.
So what is this life-changing conversation? I want a cliffhanger. I'm like, wait, say more. Okay, so what was the life-changing conversation?
Next week at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to get... Sure. As you can see, I'm also quite silly.
You are.
Following a regular Saturday morning meditation and a talk given by our spiritual teacher, I sort of hung around, and he asked me if I wanted to chat, and then asked me how things were going for me and my ex-wife, who he also knew well. This conversation was really penetrating, partly because I really trusted this man. I still do really trust this guy. Unfortunately, he's in the spiritual world now, but at any rate. So I'd like to share with you, if I could, some of the important insights from this conversation. The first thing I really got was that I had to take full responsibility for my life, happiness, and well-being. Us men are really boys in big bodies, and it sometimes takes us a long time to grow up. Well, that was true for me. My spiritual teacher encouraged me to let go of all blame and to make the choice to forgive myself and my ex-wife so that we could both be free to move on with our lives. He also encouraged me, although he used somewhat different words, but he basically told me I would never establish a committed, loving partnership as long as I was hanging on to being a victim. Love and resentment just do not make good housemates. Now, this was all very difficult for me to hear at the time. I was holding on to anger toward my ex-wife and especially toward myself for not making my marriage work. I was really choosing to be a total victim. It's easier to remain the victim than to accept full responsibility for your life. But through the grace of God, I was able to let in what he told me. I help my clients to fully stand in their power and take full ownership of their lives. Second, my spiritual teacher shared with me that if I wanted my life to be different, then it was just up to me to become crystal clear on what I wanted and just as importantly, why. More on this later. Finally, my spiritual teacher told me that if I was going to attract and build a romantic partnership that would stand the test of time, I had to fully commit to attaining my relationship's goals. And for me, this meant getting professional help. So in order to make a fresh start, I have found it simply necessary to willingly and very consciously take a good, hard look at your life. If things aren't as you would like, really allow this fact to fully penetrate your consciousness. Don't run away from it. Things are what they are. In order to make a real fresh start, you must be willing to fully accept where you are today. So the first step on the path to mutually empowering love is to willingly examine your life and take full responsibility for your life, happiness, and well-being. There is no shame, no guilt. Things are what they are. In order to make a real fresh start, you must also fully embrace that things can be different. That's a big stumbling block for many people. I know it was one for me.
Yeah.
Where you are now is simply your starting place. The past does not in any way determine what is possible for you tomorrow, a week from now, or 10 years from now. This is so important, I'm just going to repeat it. The past does not in any way determine what is possible for you tomorrow, a week from now, or 10 years from now. Take a moment to let that just seep in. And if you notice any pushback in your thoughts and feelings, pay particular attention to those. It's very important also to understand that our minds tend to rebel when we challenge anything about how our lives are. When we try to change anything about the status quo, there's pushback. So when you begin to take steps to replace what is currently unfulfilling with what you really want, you can expect part of your mind to rebel. And I also like to add that in order to build a life that you really want, you must first challenge the belief that you won't really find true love. And any other beliefs that are standing in your way. Then you can begin the work of developing the beliefs that support your true aspirations. While we can all learn to bring our thinking into alignment with what we really want and deserve, my clients tell me that this is where having a coach, a therapist, or some other form of professional support is really very, very helpful, if not essential. I know that was true for me. It's just hard to see ourselves accurately. I also know that true love is possible for anyone. So, Rachel, I just covered a lot of ground. Can I take a minute and just kind of summarize this stuff I just shared for just a minute?
Yeah, let's do that. I think that's a good idea.
So in order to make a fresh start, I have found it very helpful to do the following things. Be willing to take a conscious, hard look at your current life circumstances. Be willing to take full responsibility for your life, happiness, and well-being. Fully accept where you are today. Embrace the idea that things can be different. Be aware that any time you challenge the status quo, your mind will push back. Just be ready for it. And begin to really embrace the idea, hold it close to your heart, the belief that you can bring your thinking and beliefs into alignment with where you are and who you are, and especially the person you are deeply in your soul. So I have to ask everyone on the call, is it time for you to make a fresh start? And, write down anything that's popped up for you.
Yeah, I really love what you just shared, Ron, because first of all, I think what's nice about that is there are these different places where we might get stuck. Like one person might really truly believe, but they might find that, they get stuck in another place about, being responsible and choosing and, really being the authors of their lives. Or other people are taking responsibility, but they're holding on to so many past hurts that they're just, blocked, I love that idea of like we have to release and let go, and that what you said there about resentment and love don't really go together, that we have to clear out any of that old stuff to make room for, that new relationship and that new person. I think that's really beautiful. And so, yeah, I just encourage everyone who's listening to think about, each of those bullet points and, where are you? Are you good in that area, or are you finding yourself a little blocked there? And that can help you kind of hone in on what specifically you might need to give some time and attention to. And so all of that's making great sense. So now what's the next step? Somebody, they go through this, they go through those steps, and they feel like they've cleared the slate and they're ready for that fresh start. What comes next?
Well, what I call this the royal path to love and fulfillment. And the second step on this path is really a 1-2 punch. Clarity and commitment. Become crystal clear on what you want and especially why you want it. Then fully commit to doing whatever it takes to attain your relationship goals. This is another point my spiritual teacher really drove home. Love will just not magically find you. It's just not going to happen. You must be open to it and actively seek authentic connection. So in this context, I'd like to digress a little bit and talk about a little bit about the power of our imaginative capacities and their role in how our lives unfold. The power of our imaginative capacities as a creative force behind all human endeavors cannot be overstated. The visionary physicist Albert Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Our imaginative capacities play a critical but unfortunately often misunderstood role in the lives that we create for ourselves and the good that we're able to do in the world. From my experience, you cannot have anything and everything that you can envision. I call this belief that you can have it all lie. I'm sorry, folks, but you can't have it all.
Oh, no.
But the good news, drum roll please, is that you can have what actually will fulfill you. Now, I am not making a subtle distinction here. That's actually how we humans are wired. In order for an envisioned outcome to come to fruition, it must be deeply rooted in inspiration. It must be deeply rooted in our souls. Plans that are based on superficial desires rarely come to fruition because there is no seed in the seeker's soul from which to bring forth this fruit. I know this is kind of a new idea, so I'll just repeat that one sentence there. Plans that are based on superficial desires rarely come to fruition because there is no seed in this dreamer's soul from which to bring forth this fruit. The relationship myths and half-truths that we have all been exposed to can make it very, very hard to discern what we really want from what we have been taught that we should want. Everyone, myself included, has bought into at least some of the mass-marketed stories, societal norms, mythology around success, fulfillment, and especially love. In addition, most of us, myself included, I'll raise my hand here, have actually cultivated desires for material things, relationships, circumstances, and so on that are simply not consistent with who we are in our souls. It's precisely because we don't know what else to do that we find ourselves following such superficially based plans, as if they were our true course. Naturally striving for something that is inconsistent with who we are at the very core of our being causes needless but very real frustration. So what's the solution? Well, the solution from what I have seen is to use the power of your imaginative capacities to get in touch with an inspirationally based vision of your life with a partner who truly loves you for who you are. Plans created in this manner always have a path to fulfillment. Always. This, my dear friends, is the key to effectively using your power of imagination to create an actionable plan that is actually in alignment with who you are in your soul. So I use special tools to help my clients get deeply in touch with their most deeply held values around life fulfillment and especially romantic partnership. We then create a living vision of a life with their ideal life partner. We then develop a love action plan, that's hard to say, that is in perfect alignment with their vision and most deeply held values. So once you get crystal clear on what you want and why, and create a plan to get you there, the next thing to do is to fully commit to your plan. It's really very simple. Full commitment activates our deepest, most powerful resources and instantly enlists the full support of the universe. Instantly. Goethe put it succinctly. At the moment of commitment, the universe conspires to assist you. At the moment of commitment, the universe conspires to assist you. Now, this is the deep, unwavering commitment I'm talking about. I'm not talking about committing to going to a party. I'm talking about committing to having a life you really want. So I'm asked, what do these words bring up for you? Just take a second, connect with yourself, and ask yourself, how committed am I to what I'm up to? So some of you may be wondering, what characterizes this type of deep, unwavering commitment? Unwavering commitment is characterized by the unflappable confidence that you will achieve your goals. People like Gandhi, Winston Churchill, all kinds of people, Cesar Chavez, modern heroes of today's time come to mind. Now, this does not mean that you'll know exactly how you're going to achieve your goal. This is an important point. It doesn't mean that you know how you're going to get there. But when you make the deep, unwavering commitment to getting what you want out of life, guess what? The hows begin to take care of themselves. Your eyes open to what's possible for you. So that's where my clients tell me having a coach is so helpful, because I know the way. I've walked this path. We figure out all of the hows together. Now, you may recall that Rachel shared that I've created a highly effective modular system that helps my clients to attract and build deeply satisfying, loving partnerships. You see, having a proven system will put your mind at ease so that you can confidently move forward towards your relationship goals. As I like to say, having a proven method puts the mind at ease so that the heart can shine. It is time for you to stand up and shine.
Awesome. Wow. So there was a lot packed in there too. So let me just a couple of thoughts in response to what you've just shared, Ron, because there's a lot of meat in there, and I want to make sure that people really get this, that with that clarity, that vision of what it is you really want to create. This actually just reminds me of a friend right now who is just struggling to find, a partner. And she's absolutely adamant, she's ready, it's time. And just the other day, she, went onto her OkCupid profile, and she decided, I'm just going to be super specific. I'm like ridiculously specific. And within, 2 or 3 minutes of doing that, she met this guy. And not to say that he's going to be the one, but it is interesting when you get that clarity and then you speak it out and you put it out, what kind of energy that generates. And then when you get really committed, and I love that idea of like being 100% confident that you're putting in the effort, the time, the energy, whatever it is, and that you will see the fruits of that and receive that back. I think that's really, really profound. And, oh my gosh, there was something else that I wanted to highlight that was so good. Oh no. And the fact that, what I love about this, Ron, is that when I think about, investing money, I'm like, I go to somebody who's broke the code, right? I have no idea how to deal with the stock market, so I don't go and throw my money around and try to make it happen. I go to somebody who knows what to do, and I trust them. And I think sometimes we have this idea that in the world of relationships that we're supposed to just be able to figure it out, like we should just know what to do. And that we don't need like guidance or mentors in the same way. And I think that that's one of the mistakes that we sometimes fall into. And so what I love is that you have created a system, just like somebody creates a system for understanding the stock market or real estate or whatever, that you have this system that can guide people and show people the way. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I individualize, completely customized for each person. That's why it's modular. So some people start one place, some people start another. Depends on where they're at. Well, thanks for, giving such a nice summary and your perspective on that. I love the financial analogy. Yeah, I do the same thing. I have no idea how all that stuff works. And I've got a guy in San Francisco that does, and he and I have pretty good friends. And yeah, it's the same thing. Making an investment. You're making an investment in yourself. But that's a different thing. We sometimes hesitate to do that. So I have some more to share. Can I keep going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I promised to share a basic model for understanding all relationships, and that's the handout. I'm kind of going to presume most people have it. If you don't have it, there's a thank you, Rachel, for creating this short link. I had a link that you guys never would have got. It was like a mile long, but here's a link Rachel made for me to get the handout if you don't have it. It's http://bit.ly/a basic model. And if you don't have it, it's okay because you can visualize this pretty well. But if you can go get it, if you don't have it, that's a good idea. So there's a challenge. One of the deepest and most salient challenges of modern committed relationships is building a relationship that actually works equally well for both partners. Well, when it comes to figuring out solutions to our own relationship struggles, it can be very difficult. Many, many times I've experienced this, to discern the forest from the trees. What's needed is a simple, practical model that can provide a basic starting point for pretty much anyone in any situation. So here we go. One way to very effectively conceptualize the complicated dance of interpersonal relationships is to view the relationship as a separate living entity. Add to this idea that all living entities require support and nurturing to grow, and especially to thrive, and you have the basis for a simple model and a place to start. So if you don't have the diagram in front of you, you have a piece of paper, draw a heart. And in the center of the heart, write the word love. And above the heart, write your relationship. Your R will do for now. And to the left of the heart, write you. And to the right of the heart, write your partner. So when the quality of the relationship is the top priority of both people in the relationship, then both parties do what it takes to keep the relationship healthy. For me, true love means that I will be true to love in my heart for my beloved wife while, and this is important to get, while fully honoring my own needs, desires, goals, and so on. I call this the inner work of love. Conscious, mutually empowering, mutually fulfilling relationships are built through open discussion of what's most important to both partners. Here's some important points to remember. First, commit to open, fully transparent communication. Second, commit to always striving to be fully present with your partner. Every interaction that we have with another human being provides a precious, never-to-be-repeated opportunity to connect emotionally. Do your best to acknowledge your partner for the person they are. While it's important to thank people for what they do and acknowledge their efforts in the material world, it's far more important to acknowledge them for the wonderful person that they are. And quite frankly, those sorts of acknowledgments build a more deeper, durable emotional connection. And when you acknowledge your partner in that way, it's like you're putting deposits into your joint emotional savings account. So that when the crap hits the fan, as it inevitably does, guess what? You have something to fall back on. They really know that even if they're struggling, that you get them for who they are. So, Rachel, if there's still enough time, I'd like to talk some about building emotional connection. Can we do that? Do we still have enough time?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I kind of simplified this a little bit. Basically, and there's lots of stuff on my blog about this, folks, so, there's many, 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 many articles, almost 400,000 words now on my blog. We all want to be included, have a sense of control over our lives, be liked, or at the very least accepted. The most basic level of emotion connection forms a basis for how we give and receive the empathetic support we all need. All of us need this. Failure to read and respond accordingly to each other's emotional cues can over time derail almost any relationship. If you paid attention, of course, you know this to be especially true for intimate relationships. You can never take words back, by the way. That's something important to know, too. There are several things that help with establishing and building emotional connection. I think the first and key thing is to slow down and train yourself to be fully present with your date or partner. Train yourself to see every interaction with your lover as an opportunity to connect. As I like to say, we're always building our relationship house. Something I do is I practice connecting with everyone I interact with. This gives me countless opportunities to develop my empathic capacities and makes life really fun and interesting. Learning to make the most of your relationship opportunities really amounts to training yourself to be more other-centered while staying in touch and authentically expressing your own needs. I think I should say that again. Learning to make the most of your relationship opportunities really amounts to training yourself to be more other-centered while staying in touch with and authentically expressing your own needs. Something that has helped me is that I regularly check in with myself throughout the day. How am I doing? How am I feeling emotionally? What's going on with me? How am I feeling? Where in my body do I experience that? All kinds of things. It really helps me not only connect better with other people, but keep on top of things, keep ahead of the rapids so I'm not washed away. I also try and take a brief pause before initiating any important conversations with my partner so that I can get clear on what I want to communicate, and just as importantly, how I want to share what I need to say. The next thing is, and this is obvious, develop your listening and connection skills. Why am I even mentioning that? Well, in our fast pace, should have had that done yesterday, approach to life, I've noticed that our listening skills have really eroded. Learn to ask questions that allow your partner to simply express themselves. Forget about uncovering all the juicy details. Usually the details are far less important than simply giving your partner the opportunity to share. Guys, please get this. Forget about asking all those clarifying questions. Give up trying to find out all the details. They're not really that important. They're more about you than your partner if you think about it. Give up trying to fix everything. This is, again, kind of relevant to the guys. Gentlemen, I just encourage you to ask questions that show your interest in your partner. You don't always have to get to the bottom of things. Just provide space for them to express themselves. That's so important. Oftentimes, if you just let someone talk, guess what? Their consciousness is showing them what's going on in their lives, and they're already forming a solution to their situation. Just let them talk. Always show your partner respect by asking if he or she would like help before you offer it, and then allow them to direct your efforts. You know, us guys, we like to take charge and just, I'll take care of that. Well, you know what I found really works? I ask, well, honey, how would you like me to help you here? And she might say, well, go do this or go do that. And then she tells me exactly what to do. Well, guess what? Now I don't have to figure it out, and it's going to meet her exactly. Surrender. Love is a river that flows downstream. Humble yourself to your partner. So in this context, I just got to bring up what I call blessed vulnerability. And once again, for us guys, this can be really hard. I also want to mention and acknowledge the women on the call that women, often struggle with this as well, especially if there is any fear that they will be rejected or abandoned if they truly express their needs and fears.
For sure.
But here's the deal. If you're feeling sad, afraid, troubled, discouraged, inadequate, just down, spill the beans and say so. Guys, let this in. You don't always have to be okay, in control, and have things handled. You don't always have to know all the answer. You don't always have to fix things. Expressing vulnerability gives your partner the opportunity to support you. Remember I shared that we all need empathetic connection? When men don't allow their partners to nurture them, because we're strong, we're ripping them off, and we're ripping ourselves off. We all need to give and receive empathy. Give your partner the gift of allowing them to fully support you.
I love that.
I'll keep going here, Rachel. Make requests, not demands. Ask for what you need. And the other side of that coin is always leave others in freedom to decide if and how they would be willing to meet your request. How you deal with no in your relationships, I have to tell you, is so important. Because no usually doesn't really mean no. It means they need a different way to support you.
Yeah.
For example, when I'm feeling that I need more alone time with my sweetie, I make my request like this. I'm feeling that I need more alone time with you. Now, my wife works 60, 70 hours a week. That's why I have to put things this way sometimes to her. Would you be willing to schedule one evening this week to do something together? Notice I said, would you be willing? And then leave her freedom to say yes or no. Maybe that week she can't. Another thing that I've realized over time is that intentions trump expectations. State what you would like to have happen as opposed to just expecting that your partner or date will read your mind and know exactly what you want or need. You know, for example, it's dinner time and neither you or your partner have figured any of that out, started dinner, been to the kitchen. I might say, I'm getting hungry. I don't feel like cooking. May I call in some Chinese food for pickup? You know, this gives my wife all the information she needs without dumping the responsibility for preparing dinner on her. Well, I've covered most of the basics of emotional connection, or at least scratched the surface. There's a lot more I could talk about. Like I said, there's lots of good articles on my blog. And, of course, I'd be delighted to answer and have a dialogue, more importantly, with anyone who would like to stay on the call and ask some questions.
You know, that what I love about that is just, you know, we've gone from, okay, you're not in a partnership, it's not there for you, and what do you need to know and understand in order to start, you know, bringing that into your life. And then the second piece is sometimes we get those relationships and then we don't know what the hell to do. You know, like we get in there and things just start to crumble and fall apart. And I have to say, yeah, you did touch on quite a few different points there, but I love the just slowing down. And you are such a model of this. Like, you really do live this. Like, when I walk, I always feel bad because when we're talking, I'm, like, looking around. I notice how distracted I am every time I'm in your presence because you know how to settle in with a person and really be there. And I just, you know, I really love that. I think that's such a good key lesson. And noticing that every little interaction that we have with our partner is adding, you know, to the story of the relationship. It's adding to that connection. I think it's beautiful. So now I know that you have this modular process, and it's all, you know, it's built and you know, it's all there. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that? I'm really curious, like, because you said, oh, people could start here or they could start there, and so, you know, what is it exactly that, you know, this process provides for your clients?
I'm going to be brief here, but basically it provides people with the opportunity to get deeply in touch with themselves, what they want, why. It helps people to see what skill sets they're deficient in, what capacities they're deficient in, because I do a lot of assessment, and it allows them. Like, for some people, the place they need to start, Rachel, is just to release the pain. For other people, you know, they've worked through a lot of that. They just want to start, you know, with what they want. For other people, it's the process of relationship they didn't get enough of. And because most of us have pretty high expectations about our relationships, I really go into great detail about, how to identify what a self-limiting belief is, what to do about that's effective, using modern cognitive psychology and, of course, a lot of spiritual principles as well. So people can expect to learn how to deal with self-limiting beliefs. They can learn how to transform fear and indecision into inspired, decisive action. I could kind of go on and on and on. The main thing is that they get the capacities, mindsets, and skills to make the most of their relationship opportunities.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I'm super excited that, you're going to be able to hang on the line and chat with folks. So, but before we get into the question and answers here, can you tell us, how, if somebody's, in that spot where they're like, yeah, that's me. Those are the things that I need, one or all of the above of the things that you just mentioned. How do they get started? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, as someone who's walked this long, circuitous path of the love of their life, I really know how it feels to struggle this way. And so I put a lot of thought, what would be the best way to start with people? And so I developed my 60-minute committed partner breakthrough session to help people gain the clarity and insights so that they, too, can be lucky in love. So, if you're single and seeking a committed romantic partnership, or simply want to breathe new life into your existing relationship, then I invite you to participate in a fully complimentary 1-hour committed partner breakthrough session. During your session, we'll create a sense of clarity about the relationship you really want to have, find out the essential steps for you to take to establish and build a relationship that will truly meet you. We'll discover the number one thing stopping you from being in the supportive romantic partnership that you want and deserve. We'll identify the most powerful actions that will move you toward the relationship of your dreams. And we will complete our session with the excitement of knowing if we are a good match for working together. And actually, I insist on doing these sessions with people who just want to hire me on the street. I just don't let that happen. Because this is my way of really seeing if we're a good match. 20 years of counseling experience and, almost 7 years of coaching now. I get people, and I want to be sure that how I approach them is a good match for their personality, temperament, and all that kind of thing. So if I piqued your interest, you can sign up for your 1-hour committed partner breakthrough session. So how to do that is just turn on your smartphone, tablet, or computer, and go to my web/blog site, which is http://inspiredcommitment.com/ and that will take you to my Is This You page. Should I repeat that, Rachel? That's such a long website. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear, inspiredcommitment.com. And, and I also, just so folks know, I'll be emailing this to you all who are on the call as long as you registered and along with the recording of tonight. So I think people probably got it.
Okay. So what you do is you just go to the site, and there's the navigation page, and right under where it says Contact Ron, there's a sign-up for your complimentary 1-hour committed partner breakthrough session. Click that button. That takes you to my Time Trade account, and there's lots of slots. I've kind of made time over the next, I'm going out of town this weekend, but sometime, Friday, Saturday, and then a lot of time next week. So anybody who really wants a session will get a session. If you don't see a time that meets you, you can just contact me at ron@inspiredcommitment.com. Give me 2 or 3 times that might meet you, your time zone. The last call I did, there were like 15 people from England, and so it was helpful to know that that's where they were.
For sure.
By the way, if you're out of the continent of the United States, I'll have to have you call me. But anyway, that's a little detail. A couple things I want to share about these sessions. That my committed partner breakthrough sessions are really very powerful, and they're only intended for people who are really ready to roll up their sleeves and do the work to overcome their unique obstacles to true, lasting love. They're really not for people on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're ready to invest in yourself and do whatever it takes to attract and build a romantic partnership that will stand the test of time, I encourage you to take the next step and sign up for a free session with me. Take advantage of the opportunity life is placed on your doorstep. Go for it. I get to sleep with my best friend every night, and I believe everybody can. So I look forward to supporting your quest for true, lasting love. And, we got done in time, Rachel. That's kind of amazing.
We did it. Oh, my gosh. There's my brain. I'm just so full of so much. And
yeah, maybe
listen,
too much, but anyway.
No, it's good. It's all good, especially because people will have the recording. They can certainly go back and hear it again and go from there. But, folks, listen, you'd be crazy not to take Ron up on his offer. Again, if you're serious, if you're in that place where you're really ready to do that work, don't miss out on this, because see from tonight's talk, he has just so much experience, so much information to share, and a clear path, clear direction, and I think he's really onto it. So I just really want to encourage you to get on over to his website. Again, it's inspiredcommitment.com, and hit that button and schedule your time with him, and see where it takes you. I love that what you talk about when you talk about your wife. It always comes through crystal clear when you talk about Julia, her best friend, and you guys support each other and so thank you so much for sharing that and yourself and all of your knowledge with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Rachel and everyone, you're so welcome. It's an honor and privilege to get to be on the call, especially with you, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. So, folks, we're going to go to the Q&A.
There's some echo or noise or something. I feel like I'm in a reverb chamber. Reminds me of the old days when my home recording studio. It's an echo chamber here.
Hopefully that's only happening on. We'll see if that works itself out.
Okay.
Nothing is all on the Q&A section in just a moment. But just as a reminder, this call is being recorded. So, if you have an issue that you're a little bit, that you don't want to have recorded, then just say that and I'll, edit it out later. You can also text me at 650-283-5215. Again, the number to text is 650-283-5215. But if you would like to get on the line and talk directly with Ron, what you're going to do is press *6 in just a moment, not yet, on your phone, and then press 1 to speak with us. So let me go ahead and turn. All right. So if you have a question, you can press *6 on your phone, and then it should prompt you to also press 1 in order to come into the Q&A queue. And you can also text 650-283-5215. So, Ron, while we're waiting folks to gather the courage either to pop on the line or to text, I would love to hear just some stories about some of the clients who you've worked with. What are some of the journeys that you've been on with some of your clients? What have you seen? Maybe just one example, because we do have a question, but I'd love a quick example if somebody pops to mind right away.
Well, I have this client that is actually still a client because I have a maintenance program. Some people just want to stay connected with me. In fact, a lot of people choose to do that. And I helped this gentleman through the passing of his wife, the establishment of a new loving relationship. They're now living together, changing jobs, and a number of other things. And I'm very soon going to be doing a Design Alliance workshop with this couple. It's another thing I've created to help people consciously move forward with their lives. And And this guy, I mean, he's an amazing man, very, very bright, but he had a lot of stuff to work through. And, you know, kudos to him for having the courage to do it, for sticking with it. And now he's in this wonderful, wonderful relationship. And if you see these two people together, you just know they're in love. So I'm very, very happy for this person.
Love that. Awesome. All right, well, let's take our first question. So I'll call you out by the last four digits of your phone number, so 0049. Go right ahead.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good.
We're doing well.
Rachel?
Yes, this is Rachel and Ron.
Okay, fine. This is Robert from the Mental Health Admins Forum, actually. How are you doing?
Hey there. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I figured I'd call in to say hello, to speak to you on the phone, actually. I've been listening to your show, so I have a question for him. Being that we deal with people that have mental health issues, and a lot of these people, it's a neurological issue in addition to an emotional issue. So their ups and downs emotionally are in part based on neurological and psychiatric issues. And if you're trying to form a relationship, because I get this at my support group, because I help run a support group in New York City for adults with ADD. So I get this question all the time. How do you maintain and even heal with people when there's so many variables that you have no control over?
That's a really good question. I did a lot of work with pretty mentally ill people, 20 years as a counselor and a mental health counselor. And everybody can build mutually empowering relationships. All human beings, unless they're psychotic or and even those people, even schizophrenics are able. There's a healthy part in everybody that wants to connect empathically. And so what I do now, I'm a coach. So if someone needs a therapist, I refer them to a therapist. If someone, and then that therapist, and for example, I work with a couple of people who were actually seeing psychiatrists and were on medications, antidepressants mostly. But at any rate, the point is that little baby steps, you can put structures in place to remind them. One of my clients, and I don't work with too many people at this functional level, but one of my clients was referred to me because, frankly, he's mentally pretty dysfunctional. And so what he did is he found a favorite shell at the beach. He lived in Santa Cruz. And he kept that in his pocket to remind him that he could stop anytime he wanted to and take a pause. And I taught him some skills that I can't really get into on this call about how to do that. How to just bring his mind to...
Excuse me, what do you do with people who have issues with acting impulsively?
Well, they may not be my clients. It depends on how far on that scale they are. Because all of us have some tendency to be impulsive. So
I'm not talking about people who are extreme. I'm not talking about people, for example, who are manic depressive to the point where, or whatever, or because as Rachel knows, I have 195 people in there, and I have people from all different communities in the mental health field in there, as lay people who are in there. So, but I'm talking about even moderate people who are moderate. How do you handle it? Because that's a very real issue with people in relationships who have moderate issues, not the extreme issues.
Well, first they have to be aware that that's a problem, and then I have found that impulsivity is very often related to people just not having the skill sets. For example, I used to teach yoga and other things to my patients when I did that kind of work. to help people slow down, get more in touch with their bodies, their minds. And very often, people will tell you who have problems with impulsivity. They will tell you they have a sensation in their body around that. And if you can get
very
them
good, actually.
to know that, to know what's going on there, and make that connection, then they can begin to interrupt that process. Rachel knows a lot about this, and so do I. I say you got to rewire the brain a little bit, and the way you do that is by creating new pathways. And that can be done even with people who have some pretty serious problems, because a human being is an adaptive creature. We're so adaptive. If you've traveled around the world and seen what some people have to adjust to, it's just amazing.
It's incredible.
I'd be delighted to talk more with you about this or email back and forth, but I'd like to give time for other people to ask questions if you feel like I've adequately answered your question.
No, you brought up a couple of very good points. I thank you very much. It was very nice speaking to you, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to have you on. And this is one of those things that we get into the layers of what's getting in the way of relationships, right? Sometimes we lack clarity, we lack commitment, we are holding on to past hurts, past resentment, and then there's just the what do I actually do and how do I actually show up in relationships? How do I trust? How do I communicate? And we have, Ron certainly has a lot of skills and tools for moving people through, even people who are struggling with mental disabilities. But yeah, there's a spectrum. And so it's a tough question. So I just want to acknowledge that because it is a tricky thing there.
I'm a New Yorker. I'm sorry. I hit people up right away.
You're awesome.
I love New York. It's one of my favorite places to go. My wife has never been there, and she thinks San Francisco was a big city. And I told her, I said, hon, you could put all of the financial district, you could put all of San Francisco on Manhattan and not be able to find it.
And I speak to people from all over, and the people from California think the people in New York are just hyperactive nuts. And the people from New York think the people in California are coming from another planet because it's a very different lifestyle. It's like two worlds apart.
Yeah, I played music professionally for years, so I spent quite a bit of time there. I love New York. I fit right into that frenetic culture. I can get wound up and run around all night late, just like all you guys do. I love it that it doesn't close at 2 in the morning. You can go out at 4 in the morning and get a slice of pizza. Anyway, thanks
in Manhattan,
for the question.
yes. In other areas, no, but in Manhattan, yes.
Fabulous. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight. And always feel free to reach out. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact Ron or me anytime. Happy to be a support. Thanks for the great work you're doing.
Nice to speak with you finally.
Yeah, same here. All right. Our next next question is from 5569. Go right ahead. You're on the line.
Hi, yes. I'm calling from Austin, Texas. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, yes. The stereotype about us is that we all have room for temperature IQs and corn-pone accents. And, yes. And whenever people ask me why I don't speak with a twangy accent, I tell them I'm not from Kentucky or West Virginia. And, anyway, I understand you guys have a lot of clients with mental issues. I have Asperger's. I presume most of you have heard of this by now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I don't know exactly what I want in a relationship, but I know exactly what I don't want. That's why I made 25 my cutoff age, because that's about the age where the frontal lobe of the brain is fully developed, and when most people realize they have to get it together. And also, one thing I have done, it has worked, I don't ask for anybody's approval on anything I do or say anymore, because I've been going to Brody Boyd's seminars, and chicks dig confidence. They find that sexy. And when you don't ask for anybody's approval for anything, that gives them the impression you're not second-guessing yourself. But the one thing I want to know is the method I'm doing wrong with saying what I don't want by going through the process of elimination, is that counterproductive?
You know, that's a very insightful question. What's your name? I didn't get your
My
name.
name is Dustin.
Justin?
My name is Dustin with a D. And
okay, Dustin with the D. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And part of the reason I have a hard time connecting with people is because also people with higher IQs, I mean, not to sound pretentious or anything, but I'm not your stereotypical Texan. I don't have a room temperature IQ. It's actually close to 140, and I'm a very rational person, and sometimes I guess I'm just too rational to understand the dynamics of human relations.
Well, what I would say is knowing what you don't want certainly is important, but it's a much different energy in your consciousness. It's a repulsive energy. It's a negative energy in your consciousness, what you don't want. It's like when I shared on the call, intentions trump expectations. To say what you want as opposed to what you don't want. It's so I would say that if you want to engage the more positive, dynamic, creative, and resourceful aspects of your consciousness, to focus on what you do want. Also, when you focus on what you don't want, sometimes there's unconscious fear triggered, and then your higher mental capacities can be eroded because your reptile brain takes over, and now the pathways to what you really want are closed. So I think it is better to embrace a vision of what you don't want, or rather what you do want as opposed to what you don't want. And because it's positive and it's attractive, trying to create a positive vibration in your consciousness. So if there's a particular qualities, and I recommend also focusing on soul qualities, character qualities of people. You know, for me, what was important for me when I did all this stuff with myself was I needed somebody. I had a huge list, it was really big, and I realized, okay, well, what's really important to me? What was really important to me is I wanted somebody who was spiritually awake. I wanted someone who was joyful, reasonably healthy, that could have fun, and that took care of themselves. Well, I got that and much, much more in my partner, my wife, Julia.
So you got the whole package, huh?
I'm blessed, and as I like to say sometimes, I read the tag, and and the care instructions, like, you know, do not hang out to dry was one of the things on the care tag. You know, please don't hang me out to dry. And you know, relationships require trust, and it's hard to trust what you don't want.
It is. Well, and I've more or less given up on online dating because I don't know these people from a hole in the wall, and also a lot of them have a penchant towards lying about who they are and what they want. And as far as having AS, I don't tell anybody right away because of the stigma that comes with autism, because then people who don't know will start comparing me to Rain Man, who's a savant, or now they'll think, or they're afraid they're going to wind up at the bottom of a well because the media has done a fine job pigeonholing us all as sociopaths after the Sandy Hook and UCSB shootings. And I'm in my mid-30s by now. If I was going to merge over to the dark side, I would have done it by now, most likely. And also, I know that I'm not psychotic because just a few months ago, I'm trying to get a claim from the VA for PTSD. They were trying to see if I'm psychotic, and I don't have hallucinations or hear voices, and my reasoning skills are far too adept for me to be psychotic. But nobody knows that. I mean, it sends buzzwords out. And when they hear autism, Asperger's, they immediately think psychopath, you know, serial killer, kind of like the media twist things around. Like they say, black man, thug, deadbeat father, illegitimate children, has a criminal record a mile long.
Yeah, it's amazing the depth of ignorance and how quickly people pick up on just the superficial stuff. So I want to just acknowledge something about you, Dustin. You had a lot of courage to come on a live call and say, hey, I've got this syndrome and ask a question. So thank you for showing up. Do you feel I answered your question to your satisfaction?
Yes, somewhat. I think so. You basically told me that when I focus on all that I don't want, that subconsciously what I don't want will supersede all the things that I do want in my thought process.
Yeah, in one sense, yeah. I just personally believe that being positive attracts positive things. So
I agree.
Misery attracts misery. Happiness attracts happiness. And in terms of the whole online dating thing, I could talk for an hour about the whole thing with the internet and all that kind of stuff. So I totally feel you there. Dustin, thanks for your question. Let's see if there's anybody else that wants to.
Thank you.
Has the courage to come on and talk to me and reach.
My pleasure. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dustin. Really nice to have you with us again. Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, sorry about that, Dustin. I think I subbed you off a little bit too quick there. Sorry, it's one of those things sometimes. It's like, awesome. So I think, Ron, one of the questions that, comes to mind for me, just to go back to some of the things that we've covered here, is, I guess one of the biggest things is that hopelessness, because I certainly have been in that space myself, and I certainly see a lot of my girlfriends in that space of like, oh my gosh, I'm like in my 30s now, and what's going on? Why haven't I found him or her yet? And that frustration. So I'm just wondering if maybe you can say a little bit more about, how people can come out of that, or what they can do to maybe, I don't know if snap out of it is the right way to think of it, but address that kind of sense of, man, I'm just never going to find anyone.
Well, Rachel, as you know, that is a self-limiting belief that probably it's a tip of the iceberg, and there's lots of beliefs that are attached to that. And as you pointed out in the teleseminar I hosted for you, that that you have to know what your mind is up to, and so by paying attention to your speech, that it's no accident that the first principle of Buddhism is right speech, and no accident. And the reason for that is because what we speak manifests. And so if you just pay attention to what you speak out loud and your self-talk, you quickly discover the mind trap of hopelessness, because it can be an endless cycle. You tell yourself one thing, then there's an association with another thing, and pretty soon you're swimming in a mucky pond that you can't get out of.
Right.
And so to be present with what you're saying, what you're thinking, and then what I get people to do is I get them in that moment to give themselves self-empathy. I use a breathing method so that they connect with their breath, body, and feelings.
Oh, wow.
And then what I ask them to do, after they're really connected with how that feels, then I ask them to use the power of their imagination in that still place to imagine that need was already met. Because, see, we get strategies and needs confused.
Yeah.
And so when you imagine with all your being that need met, it can cause a shift, especially if you do this routinely. It causes a shift, and really what you're doing from a neurophysiological point of view is you're rewiring the pathways in your mind.
Right.
But
right.
the key is to interrupt it, to get still, to be fully present with it so you see it for what it is, understand that there's a need there, and then see, what do I need in this moment? What do I need? What do I need? Ask yourself. And it will come to you. It'll rise up in your consciousness. And then to imagine that need is met. Because the cycle of hopelessness is the downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I would just say from a practical point of view is if you're having tendencies toward basically depressive kind of thoughts, don't drink.
Right. Yeah.
Don't go out. Don't. If you go out with your friends, have a mineral water. I lived in an ashram for years. I would go out dancing. I love to go out dancing. I wouldn't drink.
Right on.
Right? So there's lots of practical things you can do. And actually there's also foods that help, believe it or not. I could go kind of on and on about all that based on the Ayurvedic, how foods are classified. And so a person who's having struggles with negative emotions needs to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, believe it or not.
Wow.
Our bodies are chemical at one level.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if any of that's helpful, but that's some of the things I do. You can't just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. There are methods that have been developed, and a lot of the things that like I'm really into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. That a lot of the things that were thought about in the 70s, now there's empirical proof that those things work because now we understand more of the neuroscience of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's so true that sometimes we think we should just magically, feel better or, if we can like will ourselves into it. But, what I've seen in my work with survivors of sexual abuse is certainly that, the believing that they can heal, which is similar to what you're talking about, believing that you can find that partner, that you can have the life that you want to have. It does so often come down to recognizing the beliefs that are in the way of that and then doing things that foster hope, that shift your focus and attitude towards possibility. And that just brings to mind for me again the one thing that you said about how your past, the past does not determine what's possible for you.
No,
tomorrow.
In fact, our bodies regenerate constantly. And, it's a spiritual principle, and it's consistent across all the world's religions, that each day is a new beginning. From the Christian, Judeo-Christian perspective, his blessings are new each morning. There's this natural process in our consciousness to bring forth. So what I tell people also who are struggling with a lot of hopelessness, and this is kind of a new agey thing, but it can be effective when combined with a lot of other things, is a gratitude journal. Find things you're thankful for.
Sure.
And try to train your thinking to see the glass as half full, if not overflowing. So I had one gal that I work with actually that I almost didn't take on as a client, because she'd been on antidepressants for a while. And so I thought about it, and she was in Georgia. Well, she still is in Georgia, kind of a long ways away. But okay, so I thought, well, let's see. It turned out she'd been telling herself so many things that were not true for many, many, many years. And as we picked those apart, and she used this breathing technique, they began to evaporate. They began to have less of a hold on her consciousness. And I had her do a gratitude journal and a bunch of other things. But so there are ways to overcome this stuff. But I personally feel that for people who are really struggling, get help. I mean, I had to get help here. I was a trained counselor.
Yeah.
I had no problem getting help. In fact, it helped me go see a therapist because then I understood what the experience was for them people coming to see me. And it really helped me be a better counselor. Yeah. And it helped me work through all this deep cry. Be present with what's there. You can't run from it.
No doubt. No
right?
doubt.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
Look at your path.
The more you run from it, the worse it gets.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
The more it bites you in the you know what.
Yeah. Very, very true. Man, and yeah, it just brings to mind that, I love the advice also that you gave about just getting clear about where you're at today. Just taking a self-inventory. And sometimes, we do a lot of pretending or we do a lot of denying about what's really going on. But the sooner we're clear about what's really happening, the sooner we can start to do something about it.
Yeah, and you know what? That first step is scary. It is really scary. But there's no way around the mountain. You just have to climb it. And it starts with the first step. And if you've ever been hiking in the mountains, that sometimes it can get pretty steep. But then there's these beautiful places where there's streams and ponds and the path to overcome all this stuff. Your consciousness provides you with the space to do it if you let it, if you surrender.
Yeah. Love that. So I think we're getting close to the end of our time here. And so if you're still on the line and you want to get a question in, make sure you go ahead and hit that *6 or you text 650-283-5215. So someone else may pop up, Ron, but just to, kind of start pulling together, our journey from tonight, and we had some good fun, and I always love your your energy, and just what you bring is so really beautiful. So I just really want to honor you and thank you for giving of yourself tonight so generously to everyone. And so is there anything, any final thoughts, anything that you'd like to say to kind of wrap up for tonight?
Well, I certainly want to thank you for having me on the call and how fully you supported, the things that I shared, because your own experience just proves them to be true. But I just invite people to love themselves. To get up and go look in the mirror and love what you see, and to understand that you have capacities that you don't even know about yet. And that anything truly is possible for us as human beings. I mean, Rachel, if 10 years ago you looked at your life, you go back 10 years, would you ever have thought that you'd be where you are now?
Not for a minute.
So, but you made the journey. You faced hard truths. You wrestled with stuff. You were willing to do the work. If you do the work, you can make tremendous progress.
I agree. I totally agree. And I love that gift of hope and that encouragement that you're giving everyone tonight. So, folks, I hope you've been inspired, encouraged, that you've learned some really great, valuable tools and things that you can take and start putting into practice right away in your life. And don't forget that Ron is offering this 60-minute session with him, and so you can go to his website to sign up for that. I'll also be sending you the recording after our call tonight and a link to that 60-minute committed partner breakthrough session. So don't keep an eye out in your email for those and for those links, and always feel free to reach out to either me or Ron if you have any other questions or comments or feedback. Is all very appreciated. So until next time, everyone, take good care of you, and we'll see you again soon.